Say your name. Haver.
Thank you. This is case 25-045-514, State of Michigan versus Todd Jabbar Caver, counsel.
Thank you, Magistrate. Steve Benson for the people.
Judge Miguel Brico on behalf of Mr. Caver. My client's been advised of his constitutional rights, waives the full reading of the complaint, stands mute, requests that this court enter a not guilty plea on his behalf.
Court will enter not guilty plea on your client's behalf. Counsel Esteban.
Magistrate, candidly, we do have competing renditions of what went on here, but the complaining witnesses, you can see, ended up sustaining the visible injuries. And the complaining witness is about, the way that I saw it, 15, 16 years old or around 66 years old. At this time, Magistrate, because it's being charged as a misdemeanor, we're not going to object to a personal. We would ask for a no contact with the complaint nor the address through the pendency of the case.
Thank you. Counsel, does your client have somewhere else to reside while this case is pending?
Judge, I'm gonna have to ask my client that. I believe why we didn't ask him is because he indicates to us that she absolutely does not live at that address. That's what he's indicated in my office. But to be candid, I do not know. Mr. Caver, if this court were to tell you not to return to the Branford address, do you have an alternative address to stay at?
No, I do not. That is my residence. On my driver's license, my mail.
Okay, no problem.
All right, he said that's his residence and what?
That he does not have an alternative address.
I need to find one. What I've got is that victim and offender both rent rooms inside of this Branford Street address. They're not in a romantic relationship, but have lived in the same home for 6 months.
Victim no longer lives there.
What was that date of offense?
It was 2 days ago.
Do either of you have any indication, either of you counsels, that the complainant is no longer there?
My understanding is she lives there. That's what the competing statements were regarding this matter. I'm going over her, Magistrate. I'm just going over her her statement as well to the police. It does have the place of incident address as her residence.
And again, Judge, the only thing that defense has to indicate that is the words of Mr. Caver during our interview.
I just find it amazing that in so many cases we have people who've been arrested 2 days ago, and yet they know that the complainant has moved out of a residence while they've been sitting in DDC. I don't know how that information moves around like that. So here's what we're going to do. Mr. Caver, you're going to have to find somewhere else to live until at least the next court hearing, when we can clarify where the complainant is. All right, no contact with Ms. Vanderbilt, no contact with Branford. The people say they don't have any problem with personal, or am I remembering that wrong?
No, you remember that correctly. We were just asking for that no contact with the address or the individual.
Defense counsel, is your office going to be following this case?
Yes, Judge. I'm actually going to be following this case. I handle the domestics.
So I need you to make it very clear to your client that he's not to go back to Branford. Okay?
You got it, Judge. And Mr. Caver, in case you want to speak with each other, you have to know that when you're released today from DDC, if you're given a personal bond, do not return back to that address. It'll be a violation. If you have items at that address, I will ask the judge right now on the record if you may have a one-time police escort.
This is my residence on my license, where my mail comes.
Mr. Caver, the alternative is you stay in the jail. That's the alternative, sir.
The option is I can keep you in jail, sir. What would you prefer?
All right, let me go.
All right, court will set bond at $5,000 personal. I will grant counsel's request for a one-time police escort if he needs to get any belongings while this case is pending.
Thank you, Judge.
Or, let's see, next court date is July 3rd for an in-person pretrial in front of Judge Garrett here in 36th District Court. Thank you, sir. You can step aside.
Kenneth Holloman, Kenneth Bernard Holloman.
Thank you. This is case 25-045513, State of Michigan versus Kenneth Bernard Holloman. Counsel.
Thank you, Steve Benson for the people.
Miguel Brico on behalf of Mr. Holloman, my client's been advised of his constitutional rights, waives or formal reading the complaint, stands mute, requests that this court enter a not guilty plea on his behalf.
Court will enter a not guilty plea on your client's behalf as to bond.
Magistrate, I have the defendant who allegedly intentionally shot a 9mm through the floor of that residence in the kitchen. At this time, we're going to be asking for a condition, no guns, can't return back to the address through the pendency of the case, and anything else you feel appropriate.
Judge, I have no objection to any of the conditions. The only thing I have may take issue with is the address of where this occurred is Mr. Holloman's home address. It's where he resides. I'm familiar and I'm never objecting to no contact, no returns back to the address in a domestic dispute or an assault and battery dispute. But in this case, Judge, I would object to, and I would ask you just consider the fact that that is his home, that is where he lives. He's a lifelong resident of the state of Michigan. I don't have to continue the remainder of my argument, I believe, because I don't believe that anything is on the table except for that address condition. I would just be asking you to consider that.
Well, I've also got the complainant living there, so how is this different from any other situation?
Magistrate, to be candid, you're correct. I see that now on the Miss Baker is at the same address. So I know against my client's protest, I cannot have an objection to this if this court were to deem that that condition. You know,
Your client has somewhere else he can live?
Mr. Holloman, do you have an alternative address to stay at?
My parents are dead. No. That's my house. I lease that house. She's with me. I can have her. I can go down to the court and have her eviction.
That's not what I asked you, sir. I said, that's not what I asked you. I said, do you have a different address to stay at?
I do not.
He does not, Judge.
All right, so now he's threatening to go have her evicted from the home.
Mr. Holloman, please just answer our questions.
It amazes me that somehow reckless discharge is a 90-day misdemeanor when simply carrying a gun is a multi-year felony. Something's backwards and all of that when not firing the gun is a felony and firing it through the floor allegedly is a 90-day misdemeanor. But sir, here's what I'm gonna make clear to you. I don't care if it's your house. I don't care if you're the one paying the rent, if you're the one paying the mortgage. You're not to go back to that house while this case is pending. How clear is that? Do I need to make it any clearer than that? All right, while this case is pending, you're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You're to have no contact with Ms. Baker, no contact with the Norwood address. I will allow for a one-time police escorted visit to obtain any personal items you may need from that home. Counsel, are you going to be following this one as well?
Judge, my office will be, I personally will not be. I can make note of any specific instruction you have to my office on this file.
Yeah, just to make sure Mr. Holloman understands the bond conditions. Bond will be set at 10,000 personal. Next court date, July 3rd, for pretrial in front of Judge Jones here in 36th District Court. Thank you, sir. You can step aside.
Thank
Face the camera. For your full name.
A lot louder, sir. Those mics aren't very good over there. What's your name?
James Collins.
Thank you. We're going to start with some traffic tickets where you missed some court dates. When you miss those dates, a judge issued an arrest warrant for you. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford an attorney, court will provide one for you. Do you understand those rights, sir? All right, this will be ticket P 1139451. Charges of driving unregistered vehicle and no insurance misdemeanor. These are misdemeanor charges. Maximum penalty you face on each is up to 93 days in jail and or $500 fine. I'm going to set aside the arrest warrants, enter a not guilty plea on your behalf, give you a personal bond. Your next hearing is going to be on July 9th in front of Judge Kennedy here in 36th District Court, Madam Clerk. There are 2 counts, but only 1 minute was printed. Your other matter today is 25-058-302, State of Michigan versus James Lee Carter, counsel.
Thank you, Magistrate. Steve Vincent for the people.
Judge Miguel Brico, on behalf of Mr. Carter, my client's been advised of his constitutional rights, waives the form reading the complaint, stands mute, respectfully requests that this court enter a not guilty plea on his behalf as to all counts.
Court will enter not guilty plea on your client's behalf as to bond.
I didn't do this. Count 3 is closed. Count 1 is the civil one.
Oh, so it's just count 2?
Yes, sir.
All right, just to be clear, sir, can I have that real quick?
Huh?
Can I see that real quick? Sorry.
Okay, you signed it.
I just want to tell them which one is pending.
All right.
So to be clear on that traffic ticket, sir, the no insurance misdemeanor is closed out and the only remaining count is driving an unregistered vehicle. All right, back to the felony matter.
Magistrate, thank you. We're asking for a cash bond over 50,000. We're asking for monitorization as well, being charged with the CSC as well as indecent exposure. Didn't even know this minor child for more than a month, at least the way that I see it. The defendant's the boyfriend of the minor child's aunt, and this happened last Friday. And we can all see what allegedly ended up happening. Also, this was corroborated with the minor in a forensic interview that already took place the day after this incident. Just briefly going over this to support the ask for the higher cash. This defendant allegedly started touching this minor on her behind after he attempted to try to hug her. I use these words based on the investigator's report. That touching or grabbing of the behind led to this defendant apparently dry humping this 11-year-old girl. And then subsequently, he ended up pulling down his pants, exposing himself to the 11-year-old. And this was the 11-year-old's house. immediately after the incident, after the minor ended up turning down the defendant's advancements, she ended up telling two different people in the house. The police were called. The defendant was subsequently arrested. She did go through that interviewing the next day. That was last Saturday. And then you can see the admissions. We have an admission, apparently, that all he did was hug the minor girl, and when asked if he would be willing to take a polygraph, he denied it. So respectfully, we're asking for something, magistrate, over $50,000, two substantial felonies here, both at least at one, the CSC being highly assaultive, the indecent exposure just being a tag along to that assaultive offense.
Thank you.
Judge, on behalf of Mr. Carter, I just want to state off by making the record that my client is presumed innocent at this very moment, unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Judge, I would like to give you some factors to consider under MCR 6.106 in regards to my client's history, his life situation, and the hopes that you may be able to impose a personal bond with monetization requirements, or if that is not suitable for this court, a reasonable monetary bond. My client does indicate to me that any amount of monetary bond would be unaffordable, Judge. He's a lifelong resident of the state of Michigan. He does have a job at Spray Tech. This is a paint booth finishing automotive company. He does have an indication in my office that he has no prior criminal history. That's what he stated to us, and that's what I'm submitting to this court based on that information, which would lead me to believe that he has no pending cases, probation, or parole. He has provided us an address for a Detroit residence, provided us a valid phone number. I would be asking you, Judge, to consider the fact that my client couldn't afford any monetary bond. To impose any amount of monetary bond would effectively be a pretrial detention on this matter, basically the same as a remand for him. I would ask for a personal with any amount of monetization requirements you require. And if not, in that case, Judge, a reasonable amount of bond is a starting point for us to have a redetermination on.
What are your client's work hours?
Again, Mr. Carter, you will only state your work hours for me, please. What are your work hours?
They are 7 afternoon to 3 in the morning.
That's 7 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Haven't. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Vincent?
No, I think I covered. Thank you, Magistrate.
All right. Just so I'm clear, sir, you said 7 p.m. to 3 a.m.? Okay. Okay. While this case is pending, you have no contact with the complaining witness. Court does find these allegations very disturbing. Young lady being 11 years old and the defendant being I believe, 33 years old. No contact with the complainant, no contact with the Whitcomb Street address. And you will have a GPS tether. Curfew on that tether will be 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Court will set bond this matter at $50,000 cash or surety. You'll get a bond redetermination hearing in 2 days' time in front of Chief Judge McConico on June 25th. Further dates will be probable cause conference July 2nd and preliminary exam July 8th at 1:45 p.m. in front of Judge Takei here in 36th District Court. Thank you, sir. You can step aside.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question, please? To the judge. Okay, she had my cell phone at her house.
Mr. Carter, I would only ask questions about your bond conditions or your court dates. I would not say anything else about this case right now. Talk to the next lawyer or your next court date about it, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, DDC, that's all the mails, right?
Yeah, that's all the mails.
All right, sounds good. See you on the female side. Ma'am at DDC, what's your name, please?
Gary Creighton.
Thank you. This will be case 94062348, State of Michigan versus Sherry Marie Crittenden, counsel.
Lisa Coyle, appearing on behalf of the people.
Judge Miguel Brico, appearing on behalf of Ms. Jenkins. My client's been advised of her constitutional rights, waives her former in the complaint, stands mute, requests that this court enter a not guilty plea on her behalf.
I'm sorry, is this Jenkins or Crittenden? I think this is Crittenden. What's your last name, ma'am?
Oh, Crittenden, I'm sorry, Judge. That's my mistake, then. Judge, for me to restate for the record, Miguel Brico on behalf of Ms. Crittenden. Judge, my client's been advised of her constitutional rights, waives her former in the complaint, stands mute, requests this court enter a not guilty plea on her behalf.
Court will enter not guilty plea on her behalf. This is obviously a 30-plus-year-old case. That's the bond.
Personal.
No objection.
Thank you. Ma'am, while this case is pending, you're not to possess a firearm at any time. Is that clear?
Yes.
Court will set bond at $2,000 personal. Next court date will be June 30th. Madam Clerk, is this a Robbins case?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Probable cause conference, June 30th in front of Judge Robbins, preliminary exam, July 7th in front of Judge Jefferson, both here in 36th District Court. Thank you, ma'am. You can step aside.
Oh, you know what? Well done.
Hi, what's your name, please? Sorry, really, really loud. The mics over there are bad.
Tanisha Spillman.
Thank you. And this will be case 23, come on. This is a KPS. Oh, but it's in front of Brian. All right, this is 23-057-003, State of Michigan versus Tanisha Zanika Spillman, counsel.
Lisa Coyle, appearing on behalf of the people.
Miguel Brico, appearing on behalf of Ms. Spillman. My client's been advised of her constitutional rights, waives her former reading the complaint, stands mute, requests that this court enter a not guilty plea on her behalf.
Court will enter not guilty plea on your client's behalf. I'll note there's a $1,000 10% capious in the file signed by Judge Bryant for missing a review date. Looks like there's an order of probation entered in October of 23. Matter must have been pled down to a misdemeanor at that time. And so as to bond.
Yes, in fact, I see that she pled to the attempt in June of 23. Sentence was in October of 23. And then it looks like also, magistrate, in January 24, there was a review date held already. So my guess it's for payment of costs that's held up. So no objection to conversion to a personal.
Thank you, Ms. Coyle. I have no objection to that either, Judge.
Thank you. Court will set bond at $1,000 personal. Next court date will be July 3rd for a hearing in front of Judge Bryant here in 36th District Court. Thank you. You can step aside.
Judge, what was that court date one more time? I'm sorry.
July 3rd.
Thank you.
Hi, what's your name, please?
My name is Victoria Jenkins.
Thank you. We're gonna start with a traffic ticket you had where you missed the court date. When you missed that date, a judge issued an arrest warrant for you. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford an attorney, the court will provide one for you. You understand those rights? All right, this will be ticket P 1581010 with a charge of no insurance misdemeanor. Misdemeanor charge, maximum penalty you face is up to 93 days in jail and/or $500 fine. I'm going to set aside the arrest warrants, enter a not guilty plea on your behalf, and give you a personal bond. Your next court date is a pretrial in front of Judge Williams on July 7th here in 36th District Court. Your other matter today is 25045519, State of Michigan versus Katara Marseille Jenkins, counsels.
Hey, Steve Benson for the people.
Miguel Rico on behalf of Ms. Jenkins. Judge, my client's been advised of her constitutional rights, waives the formal reading of the complaint, stands mute, requests a not guilty plea be entered on her behalf.
Court will enter not guilty plea on your client's behalf. As to bond.
Magistrate, an incident that just occurred, the defendant being the daughter of the complainant who's the mom, and we have the defendant who allegedly ended up hitting the mom. At this point, magistrate, because of the way it's charged, we're not going to object to a personal. We would be asking for a no contact with mom or the address through the pendency of the case.
Judge, I have no objection to personal bond. If I may make a request to this court for consideration, if a no assaultive contact order would be something this court would consider. And just to give you some background on that, Judge, this is a mother-daughter relationship going on here, Judge. My client lives at that address with her 2 children. She's a provider and carer for those 2 children. And I believe if we were to ask her to stay at an alternative address and she did not provide my office one, we'd be leaving her kind of hanging out in the wind. But I understand that this court has their own obligations to make for the public safety and for the complaining witnesses' safety. I just feel that if we look at the allegations themselves, it's not something overly dangerous of a situation. It is an assault and battery. I understand that, but it's not something that gives us great cause for concern, at least of some type of massive harm occurring if we were to allow a no assaultive contact. My client is 23 years old, lifelong resident of the state of Michigan, works at Wendy's, indicates to my office that she has no prior criminal history, and nor does she have any pending stuff going on at the moment, Judge. So that would be what I submit to you. It would be my request. I understand that it's not the norm, and I'd be asking to deviate from that norm for those reasons, Judge.
Were there any, okay, never mind.
Magistrate, the only other thing that I can add is that after reading the complaint mom's statement to the police, they ask her whether or not, and this just happened 2 days ago, whether or not she's considering getting a PPO against her daughter, and she answers in the affirmative.
Thank you. Guess we have to end on an interesting one, right? So here's what we'll do. No assaultive contact with your mother. No contact with the Stahalem address if your mother doesn't want you there. Court will set bond in this matter, 5,000 personal. Next court date is July 3rd for pretrial in front of Judge Jones here in 36th District Court. Thank you, ma'am. You can step aside.
Judge, I did just see my client indicate maybe a question. Ms. Jenkins, if you have a question about your bond conditions or court dates only, you may ask it. If there's anything else, I would ask you not say anything. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
All right, everybody. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy the
All right,
fireworks.
Everyone have a good evening.
Thank
right.
you.
Everybody.
Ms. Coyle, bye, Mr. Vincent.
All right. Thanks, Judy.